Mr. Bird was a cardinal. He was bright red like a juicy strawberry. He puffed out his chest and sang a happy song. Cheep cheep cheer. His song floated through the warm air. He lived in a big leafy jacaranda tree in a quiet backyard. Below his branch, cars hummed on the busy streets of Los Angeles. The sun was a big yellow ball in the sky. It made the green leaves on his tree shine. Mr. Bird loved his home. It was safe. It was warm. It was perfect for a little red bird. Miss Bird was a mourning dove. She was soft gray and brown like the gentle earth after a soft rain. Her call was a quiet, sad-sounding coo, coo, coo. But she was not sad. She was a very happy bird. She lived in the same big jacaranda tree, just a few branches away from Mr. Bird. They were the best of friends. They shared berries and seeds. They watched the big metal birds, the airplanes, fly high over the city. They felt the cool breeze that came from the far-off ocean in the evenings. Their life was peaceful and full of small joys, a simple rhythm in a very big city. Every morning they would greet each other. "Good morning, Mr. Bird." Miss Bird would coo softly. "Good morning, Miss Bird." Mr. Bird would chirp back loudly. They would watch the people in the house below. A little girl would sometimes leave breadcrumbs for them on the patio. They would fly down together, hopping carefully, to peck at the tasty treat. They knew all the sounds of their neighborhood, the barking dog next door, the jingle of the ice cream truck in the afternoon, the quiet hum of the city at night. It was their whole world, and they loved every part of it. Their tree was a wonderful castle. It had strong branches for perching and thick leaves for shade. From the top they could see the tall buildings downtown. They looked like giant shiny rocks reaching for the sky. They could see the green hills that surrounded their part of the city. The hills were covered in dry grass that swayed in the wind. The sun made the grass look like gold. It was a beautiful sight. Mr. Bird and Miss Bird felt like the king and queen of their little corner of Los Angeles. They thought their peaceful life in the jacaranda tree would last forever. One afternoon the sky began to change. The bright blue started to turn a strange, hazy yellow. A funny smell filled the air. It was not the smell of flowers or car exhaust. It smelled like a campfire that was too big and too close. Mr. Bird stopped his cheerful song. He tilted his head, listening. The air felt heavy and hot, hotter than usual. He looked over at Miss Bird. She was looking toward the golden hills. Her soft eyes were wide with worry. The gentle coo was gone from her throat. Something was wrong. The happy feeling of the day was slipping away like sand through their claws. A dark cloud appeared over the hills. It was not a rain cloud. It was a billow of thick, gray and black smoke. It grew bigger and bigger, like a monster waking up from a long sleep. Underneath the smoke, a terrible orange glow flickered. It danced and jumped, eating the dry, golden grass on the hills. The wind, which was usually their friend, was now pushing the monster closer to their home. Ash, like gray snow, began to fall from the sky. It landed softly on the leaves of their jacaranda tree, covering the beautiful green in a layer of dusty gray. The sounds of the city changed too. The happy hum was replaced by a new frightening noise. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder and louder. Big red trucks with flashing lights rushed down the streets below. Other birds began to panic. Sparrows and finches chirped nervously, flying in confused circles. Squirrels chattered and scrambled down the tree trunk, running for cover. The air grew thick and hard to breathe. The smoke stung Mr. Bird's eyes and made Miss Bird cough a little dry cough. The orange monster on the hill was roaring now, a deep, angry sound. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped Mr. Bird's tiny heart. His beautiful red feathers felt dull under the smoky sky. He looked at his home, the strong branches and the green leaves now dusted with ash. He looked at his best friend, Miss Bird, who was trembling on her branch. The world they knew was being threatened by the smoke and the fire. The heat was getting closer. They could feel it on their feathers. They knew they could not stay. Their safe, perfect castle was no longer safe. The orange monster was coming for them, and they had to leave. "We have to go!" chirped Mr. Bird, his voice tight with fear. He hopped closer to Miss Bird. "We have to fly away now!" Miss Bird nodded, her gentle eyes filled with alarm. The thought of leaving their home was terrifying. Where would they go? But the thought of staying was even worse. The smoke was a thick blanket now, making it hard to see. The roaring of the fire was a constant, angry rumble that shook the very air around them. They looked at each other, a silent promise passing between them. They would not leave each other. They would face this danger together, wing to wing. Mr. Bird, usually so bold, felt a tremor of doubt. Could he fly far enough? Was he strong enough? Then he looked at Miss Bird, who tucked her head down, preparing for flight. Her quiet courage gave him strength. "Stay close to me," he called out over the noise of the sirens. "I will lead the way." With a powerful push from his little legs, Mr. Bird launched himself into the smoky air. Miss Bird was right behind him. Together, they left their beautiful jacaranda tree, their home, and flew into the gray, uncertain sky, away from the advancing flames. Their journey was a nightmare. The air was hot and full of biting embers that glowed like angry red insects. They had to weave and dodge to avoid them. The smoke made their eyes water and their lungs burn. At one point, Miss Bird's wing faltered. She was tired and scared, and she began to drift down toward the smoky streets. But Mr. Bird saw her. He swooped down, calling to her, "Come on, Miss Bird, you can do it. Stay with me." His bright red color was a small beacon in the gloom. Hearing his voice, Miss Bird found a new burst of energy and flapped her wings harder, rising up to fly beside him once more. They flew over the sprawling city. Below them they saw things they had never seen so clearly. Lines of cars were stuck on the big freeways, trying to escape just like them. People stood in their yards, pointing hoses at their roofs, their faces smudged with soot and worry. Helicopters, like giant dragonflies, buzzed overhead, dropping water on the fire. The whole world seemed to be in chaos. It was a scary, sad picture. The city they loved was hurt and frightened. Mr. Bird and Miss Bird just kept flying, putting the noise and the danger behind them, their only thought to find a place of safety. They flew for a long, long time. Their wings ached with a deep, burning pain. They flew over neighborhoods and parks, over tall buildings and wide boulevards, always heading away from the smoke. Finally, the air began to clear. The thick, gray haze thinned out, and they could see patches of blue sky again. The terrible smell of smoke was replaced by the fresh, salty scent of the ocean. They had flown all the way to the coast, to a part of the city they had only seen from a great distance. They were exhausted, but they had made it through the worst of the danger. They spotted a large green park near the water. It was filled with tall palm trees and big, shady ficus trees. It was quiet here. The roar of the fire was gone, replaced by the gentle sound of waves washing against the shore. Other birds were here too. Gulls soared overhead, and pelicans rested on the sand. Mr. Bird and Miss Bird circled lower and lower, looking for a place to rest their tired bodies. They found a beautiful, strong-looking coral tree with bright orange flowers. It felt welcoming. It felt safe. They landed softly on a thick branch, their little legs trembling with exhaustion. For a long moment they just sat there, catching their breath. They huddled close together, feeling the warmth of each other's feathers. They had lost their home. They had lost their familiar world in the jacaranda tree. A feeling of sadness washed over them. But as they looked around at their new surroundings, another feeling started to grow. It was a small, quiet feeling of hope. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in beautiful colors of pink and purple. The air was clean and cool. They were tired and they were far from home, but they were together, and they were safe. Mr. Bird looked at Miss Bird. He nudged her gently with his beak. "We made it," he chirped softly. Miss Bird looked back at him and gave a quiet, gentle coo. It was not the sad sound it sometimes seemed to be. This time it was a sound of relief, of gratitude, and of a new beginning. They didn't know what tomorrow would bring. They would have to find new sources of food, and learn the ways of this new place. But as they tucked their heads under their wings to sleep, they knew they could face it. As long as they had each other, they could build a new home.